Hello. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Interdisciplinary Studies Conference. Collaboration, integration, and innovation, wider audience, various publications, and world ranking are important matters in the world of academia. On behalf of Imam Abdalrahman bin Faisal University, College of Arts, and the Department of English, I, Dr. Arij Al-Bawardi, Head of Department, would like to welcome you all to this event. I also would like to celebrate the theme of the conference, with this being unity through diversity, creativity, and contribution. This term, I'm supervising a brilliant student, her name is Ranim Al-Fara'idi, with cerebral palsy. She wants to examine the effect of cerebral palsy on some linguistic aspects. We decided that it's important to involve a neurologist in this research process as a second supervisor. This study not only brings together a linguist and a neurologist, but also shows the collaboration between College of Medicine and College of Arts. Interdisciplinary research, which some indicate that it implies campus crossing, is a kind of a nexus for successful research. It facilitates creative, generative contribution, which is the aim of research, no matter what subject you are working on. Joining us today, a number of well-known researchers who will enlighten us with their experience on interdisciplinary research. Many thanks to our valued speakers for accepting our invitation to participate in this event. This conference comes in response to Dean of College of Arts initiative that was launched last term, an initiative that encourages more interdisciplinary research and innovation. I will now give floor to our Dean, Dr. Masha'il Al-Akli, to honor us with her speech that will shed more light on the scientific research initiative. Thank you. Dr. Masha'il.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of His Excellence, the President of Imam Abdalrahman bin Faisal University, Dr. Abdullah Rubaysh, I'd like to... Yes? Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Masha'il.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. On behalf of His Excellence, the President of Imam Abdalrahman bin Faisal University, Dr. Abdullah Rubaysh, I'd like to welcome our honorable speakers, organizers, and audience. Last year, the University College of Arts started an initiative that focuses on a number of research priorities. It aims at encouraging interdisciplinary studies that bring together different departments within the College of Arts as well as other departments at Imam Abdalrahman bin Faisal University. This initiative stems from the strategic goals of the College of Arts and the University for 2018 to 2025 that focuses on scientific research and initiative. In addition, the research priorities are also in line with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. The aims of this initiative is to raise the university's world ranking, become a destination for local and international researchers, and contribute to the Saudi 2030 vision through three main themes: an ambitious nation, a thriving economy, and a vibrant society. We believe that this conference will contribute to our vision and strategic plans by bringing together great researchers from inside and outside the kingdom. I'm assured that our valued speakers will enlighten us with ideas that will motivate more researchers to work on different studies. Many thanks to our speakers for their participation. At the end, I'd like to thank the organizers of this conference, the head of the English department, Dr. Arij Al-Bawardi, for pushing this initiative a step forward. Thank you.
Thank you, our Dean, Dr. Masha'al, and Dr. Arij, the head of the department. Good morning, respected organizers, speakers, and attendees. We're very excited today to gather to start a conversation about interdisciplinary research with our amazing speakers. As a side organizational note, let's ensure our mics are mute and the floor will be open for your questions after each speaker. You can either type your question into the chat box or raise your hand and you'll be invited to unmute your mic to ask it. Now, I'm honored to host our first speaker. He was awarded a PhD in history in 2017. And as a historian, he specializes in political violence, individual and collective memory, race relations, immigration, and popular culture, amongst many other interests. He was a recipient of several grants, a guest lecturer in several universities in the US, the UK, Poland, Spain, and the Netherlands, and a published author in many peer-reviewed journals. He's also considered an Americanist with a special interest in African American history, and his book, Violence and Memory in the United States, The Case of the 1921 Tulsa Race Riots, was published in 2018. Because of his varied expertise, our respected keynote speaker encourages people to play the game of connecting the dots in history, to learn from the mistakes of the past, and in order to do better in the future. Here to speak to us about explorations and approaches of interdisciplinary research, let's welcome the research fellow and board member of the Interdisciplinary Research Foundations in both London and Poland, Dr. Konstantinos Karatzis. Kalimera, Dr. Konstantinos.
Kalimera, hello.
Hello.
May I open
Yes, please.
my camera?
Sure.
May I open my camera? Right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Would you like to also share the screen?
Yes, if I may.
Okay, please.
Hello, everybody. It's a great honor being here. I'm really proud of being among great scholars, and I'd like to thank the organizers, the dean, and all the people that have this initiative. It's really important to us, to people working interdisciplinarily, to open the field and discuss it further, because as I'll share with you, I believe that there is a lot that it can give. So allow me to share my screen, please. I hope that you can see it. Just a moment. Okay, so I believe you can see it.
Yes, we can see it now.
Perfect, thank you very much. I'm the head of research at the London Centre for Interdisciplinary Research. We're based in London. So here to share some of my personal views and my professional views, of course, on how we can work collaboratively. In my perspective, when we say the word interdisciplinarity or interdisciplinary, it's in my ear sounds like collaboration. Why I'm saying that? As a researcher, as a historian, I'm a historian, but basically I'm the historians that go into archives and have research in order to find actual documents. I'm working on 20th century, so that means that there are several archives, especially in the United States, where I was specialized, that have worked a lot in order to collect artifacts, oral history, and other testimonies, documents that can help. Basically, it's a great help for us historians. When we discuss about interdisciplinarity, excuse me, we should have in mind that the specific idea, let's say, approach, if I might say, it doesn't want in any terms to diminish the power of the specializations of the disciplines as we know them now individually. On the contrary, it really tries to find the ways that they can work together, they can connect together, or of course, in some terms, they cannot connect together. So it brings a liberty in the idea that we open up our minds, especially as academics, that we have a vast field, a vast knowledge of our fields. So how can we make our craft, our work, more accessible to more people? What we have found now, some of, I mean, you just mentioned before that you're trying to connect neuroscience and linguistics, and you're trying to make these connections, which in the sounds of people outside of academia, it sounds, you know, I mean, that there's no meaning in that or no connection. On the other hand, when we are in the academia, we find it really interesting, the fact that we are seeing something new connected to something that 10 years ago, it was impossible for us to think. So what we see here in interdisciplinary work is that we basically need to get into the field of other specialists and understand how they work. So what I mean is that how can we really understand, let's say I'm a historian, right? And how can I understand how an anthropologist work or a sociologist work, or even people in linguistics or philologists? The first question is why I need that. I need that in order to create something contemporary. What I mean is that if you take a research or a book, right, an academic book that was written, I don't know, 50, 70, 100 years ago, and one that comes from our century, you see the difference. The difference is because of the vast knowledge that most people have, especially, and also academics, that means that they've learned more, they have more tools to learn. The last many years we have internet, so that means that we are open, we are close to numerous, countless databases and archives and information. In my opinion, it seems that the last 10, 20 years, academics are smarter, follow different perspectives, try to become more creative. What I mean is that since we have this vast knowledge and we have the tools that makes it really helpful for us to work like we do now, right? We are in a different time zone, in a different continent more or less, and we are still working. So we're trying to find the main idea of how we can interconnect all this vast knowledge we have and implement it in our specific field. The most important aspect is that we should, when you work interdisciplinarily, the first thing you must accept is that you have to collaborate with people if you actually want to learn something. And the second really important aspect is that really you are open to learn. The problem, if I might say, that we have sometimes working interdisciplinarily is that because obviously we have we're masters in something, we're not really open to hear what other colleagues have to say. What I mean is that even if we take an object and we sit in a different position, we still have a different perspective. Let's say if I take my cell phone, you'll see this aspect, but I'll see the screen. So instantly, even in everyday life, obviously, you'll see that there is the same thing, that we can see it in different ways. Similarly, an example I use is food, and especially places on earth that they have a rich tradition in food. My nationality is Greek, so Mediterranean food. I mean, people in Mediterranean focus a lot on food culture. Is the same thing like we focus on an ingredient. Let's say if you take an ingredient like, I don't know, eggplant, something like that, you'll see that we all have one perspective, right? It's the same thing. However, we can prepare it in I don't know, numerous thousands ways differently. So if I come to Saudi Arabia, I'm almost certain that some foods that we eat somewhere else, they are prepared in a very different way, depending on the climate, depending on the general food culture what people like in general. So it doesn't make any difference. I know I'm simplifying a lot, but if we are open in something simple as food, unique of course, and useful as food, so why not being open to our work? Obviously, especially people in academia have spent their entire life, and obviously they spend the rest of their life working on their field. So that means that there are people who are dedicated in becoming better, in getting knowledge, and also sharing knowledge. Because one of the main ideas in interdisciplinarity is how we not only we collaborate, which is the first and foremost and difficult thing, I might say, but also it's the idea of how we disseminate our knowledge. Excuse me. So here we see in the graph the words discipline, multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary. So if we take these circles, we understand, and this is very simplified because as an academic also, I believe that some of what we do, we can offer a simplified view, so it can be obvious, and also for all levels of academia understand, because I'd like to most of the times to address to younger students. I strongly support the younger generations since they come, basically these generations come from a different millennium, so they are more contemporary in many terms. So if we have our discipline and we want to work together, we call it multidisciplinary approach. So we have two of them, and we try to find a way to collaborate. Some of the times it means that we create, let's say we have an article, for example. So one person, the sociologist, writes one part, me, the historian, writes one part, and then we have the conclusion. So we basically do not collaborate in the very sense, the very meaning of the sense, but we work alongside. So in the end, we try to find a way to create some conclusions. All of these fields, all of these ideas and these approaches, by no means they are, there is no better or worse. It depends on what you want to do. It doesn't mean that everywhere we can work in an interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, or whatever way. It depends on what we want to discuss, and also the knowledge we have and the goals in order to go through that. So when we go to interdisciplinarity, it means that we are closer to collaborate, right? We like the idea, so we find at least a percentage of what we do, especially if we have, again, if we have an article, so that means that a part of it, so we write one perspective, the different perspective, and possibly, if we want to make it interdisciplinary, we find the ways that we connect it, and then we give the conclusions. Or we can work together at the same time, so we can create something collaboratively in order to, of course, to have the conclusions that we may want. In all cases, some of the conclusions may be connected, may be the same, maybe similar. However, it doesn't mean that we cannot really find our way around. So transdisciplinary approach, it's obviously the way that we all work together. We have a very, very common goal, and we find ourselves, we take all the barriers outside, and more or less in this discussion such as this one, we find ourselves, I'll talk about myself. I find myself like a student again, because basically you sit down and discuss with people about, and they all share their ideas about their field in a deeper way. So you basically have to learn and keep many notes in order to understand what the others are doing. So in some terms, both interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity, they're like courses, or depending on how much time, crash courses on the specialization of your colleague. So you can understand how, for example, a neurologist, which is something extremely out of humanities in these terms, how he or she approaches the work, and how these people can have research, because it's a different way to work, I don't know, in biology as a researcher, and different as a historian. I go to archives, they go to labs. Again, it's another matter. It's a matter of approach. So there are some problems and confusions when we discuss about interdisciplinary practices, which I would say that in these terms, it's semantics, it's details. But, since we're approaching that as scholars, I mentioned some of them. So we have a trend, so we have a school, we have an idea that works like a hegemony. So in these terms, we have an idea that covers almost everything. It happens with the old powerful disciplines, let's say, like law, for example, which is a very powerful, there are very powerful schools, even if you see it like schools around the world. So, and because of the fact that they are vast, they are deep, they are detailed, and they are extremely connected to actual reality, it affects people's life. So in some terms, they try to cover all the other aspects. In these terms, it doesn't mean that it's, again, that there is something wrong in that, because again, it goes in what we're trying to say. So if we decide that we'll discuss about the legal system of France, I don't know, and we will take a specific aspect of that and we go deep in order to understand whether this is a good law or not. So then it's up upon us if we actually want to focus on other aspects. So if you ask for a historian to join this team, that means, I'm a historian, so obviously I'm trained. I think my mind, after many years, is trained to think as a historian. So whatever I do, I try to find where it came from, right? Doesn't mean that it's wrong or not. However, this is the way that the historian thinks, right? He sees something and instantly he wants to understand where it came from, who did it, why did it, and all these other aspects. So if you invite me, this is what I can offer. If you don't want to invite me because you actually have no interest where the law came, because it seems obsolete, because it seems out of fashion, because this is not what you're looking for, so obviously, you would seem like someone who covers the others. But again, as I said, it's sometimes it's semantics, and it depends on the main on the perspective, right? So we have eclecticism and holism. In these terms, we find our way, how we work. So we distinguish our subject, we connect our subject, we find ways to interact with others. This is if we actually do this kind of research as researchers, in this thing, we'll see that sometimes there is a fuzzy approach because it depends on who and where and how we approach it. So there is pseudo interdisciplinarity, of course, and this is something that I'd like to underline. That in many cases we use, and you will see in in academia, that it is approached through interdisciplinarity. However, it is a trend, which I don't like the way they're using the word trend, but we have trend in academias as well, especially in some countries. And when we take some terms, we should be very careful on how we do it and why we do it. So in many cases, we find scholars who think they work interdisciplinarily, but at the same time, they do it in order to promote their own discipline, which is fair, of course, but at the same time, we can work in a different way so we can give something better. What always I have in mind when I write on where I teach is that what I'd really like for people to share with the people. So I want to share just a conclusion, which again, it's fair, or I'd like to share the conclusion, but basically let people, explain how I did it. Let's say if you are working on linguistics, right? So that means that you take, let's say, a word. So the idea is to let me know some aspects of that, or the entire process of how you went to found this word and the connections you have. And also, if you want to work interdisciplinarity, why not explain how this worked in other fields? So in many, there are many words. Let's say I'll say about my language, Greek, which is a very, very old language. We actually, as in many languages, of course, for example, we have at least 10 words different as far as concerns our how happy we are, or different ways to approach water, because we have different kinds of, I mean, water is water, but depending on the temperature, depending on where it comes from, how fresh it is, how sparkly it is. So we use words that in other cases, it may be just nothing in our languages. So I mean that we try to explain. What I'm trying to do generally is to explain people how to become better researchers, or become researcher, or become good researchers. Because in my eyes, it's really important for an academic to grasp a knowledge, or younger generation of research, because this will give them also the idea and the love to go further and work collaboratively in an interdisciplinary work. Because when you research, that means you basically have to work on your own, and at the same time, when you dig in order to find your information, obviously, probably you'll find walls with other disciplines, and then you have to go over this wall. So how you learn about the other disciplines? By collaboratively. So sometimes research forces people to work with others because of the goal they set. So they want to reach the specific aspect, and at the same time they want to learn. They have to learn in order to go further. So sometimes research it opens a new world, or other times forces you to go to interdisciplinarity. What I mean basically is this funny graph: chemistry for geologists, math for archaeologists, physics for psychologists. What I mean, and what I'd like to stress again, is that we need sometimes to do that. Let's say how many times we have to work with graphs. I'm a historian. I basically didn't focus on as a scholar. I mean, on economy, for example. However, if I want to be a good historian, it means that I basically have to work interdisciplinarily and learn about economy. So if I want to understand, let's say, why, for example, American history, American society goes this side or that side, or went that side, or what about all the problems that the society may have, all the good ones that it has, I should understand how economy works. So in a very poor country, the problems that create a poor economy, I mean, they are this stuff. Society collapses, and many other aspects. In a powerful economy, what happens to people? So what I mean is that you have to go, in my perspective, I went through economy. I basically had a crash course of 6 months by reading. It was my own work and discussing with other people in economics, because I couldn't really, as a PhD, to do another master's at this moment. So I went and actually discussed with all the people I knew from economics. I've read most of the books I could. So I actually mastered macroeconomy in order to understand why this affects our world. And basically, also working on national identities and collective memory, it also saves a lot. So it is a different approach, let's say, Swedish people have for the reality of the people, and it's very different one than I don't know, Bangladesh people or whatever. They come from somewhere else, or Americans or Australians. So it depends on where you come. It's connected to economy, and then economy, of course, in many terms, it's connected to education and other aspects. Let's say travels. So everything is interconnected in many terms, right? I won't keep you long. I know I talk a lot. In this practical interdisciplinarity, we discuss on how we can make this connection, right? So interdisciplinarity doesn't always mean that we academics have to work together only. Even if we want to see, that we are heading something, so we're the supervisors of a research project. However, we can, depending on what we do, right, we can go through a school, work with a school, with other professionals, with people, practitioners that will do something. So if we discuss about, I don't know, humanitarian organizations, for example, or school books or whatever, you need people doing the actual work, right? It's different if you research something if you read it on the books, and it's different if you have people actually doing the actual work, right? It's the same thing. Again, if we go to culinary studies, it's different if you are a customer and you eat a dish, and it's very different if you prepare it. So it's nice to ask the people how difficult it is to create the dish that you offered us. I see it's very minimal, so it just have some very very small tiny meat, for example. But is it difficult? So then you may learn that it took an hour to prepare that. So then you understand, you grasp a new perspective. The same thing with professionals or even schools. Let's say what I always say when I teach is that it's very difficult to teach, and then that you understand it when you teach at school at younger people who, let's say, if you are in a primary school, you see that their questions sometimes they can puzzle you. So that means people like us teaching years and have a vast experience, then you ask, there is a very tiny, very simple question that a kid may ask you, but it basically, because of the craft you have in your mind and the knowledge, it may take a lot to answer. Why? Because it's simple, and sometimes simple, it's difficult. This is where interdisciplinarity goes as well, that we can make things simpler in a way in order to work together, but at the same time it's difficult because there is nothing simple in there are simple approaches that we can collaborate. That's a very simple approach. How we can collaborate, it's a multi-aspect one. And of course, when we do whatever we do, it's very important to see what we want to do with that. Research, teaching, apply something. So it's very different if we do a research about violence 100 years ago, and it's very different if we create a textbook for people to understand what happened then. What I mean is that especially if we want to teach, it depends, and again, and there it goes again how we approach it and how we share it. If and how we want to share it with people. Is it kids? Is it 20-year-old people? Is it academics? So obviously we write in a different way. So one of my last approaches is that we understand and create the better environments for learning and by learning. So if we want to work together, we actually have to harness some soft and generic skills. And also get into the borders of the other perspective, on the other discipline, in order to find how the people think. So people in science, for example, they have a different system of thinking. They design their approaches differently. While people in, for example, in humanities, they work in a different way. However, it's really helpful, and I say it for myself, that it's great if you discuss with people from sciences and see how they approach something. So they make these bullets, and they start from A to Z, and they follow all the steps. So one way or another, they have some steps already prepared, which if you do it in your discipline, many of the times it's really helpful. Why? Because it gives us a notion on how we can approach something. Also, we don't miss points. Also, we create another routes depending on what we do. So having the bullets and create more routes. It's, as Professor mentioned with this very nice introduction of me, in my TED Talk, for example, what I approach is dots on how we can really connect the dots of history around the world. So can you imagine if we in these terms, if I couldn't work interdisciplinarily, and I want to let you know, for example, about modern Greek history. It's a useless thing if you actually don't connect it to the others. So I cannot really explain how Greece is or was if I cannot discuss about Turkey, about Balkans, about the Mediterranean. And when I open the circle, I have to go, okay, we're discussing about the Second World War. Oh, I have to discuss about Germany. Oh, about France as well, about the Americans. So when I open what I want to research, that means that I go to different circles, and following the circles, find the approaches. It means that I actually offer something more contemporary and also give a multi-aspect perspective, which basically it's 99% it can lead to a new approach from another colleague. So I offer my perspective and you offer your perspective. So in the course of the years, if we gather these perspectives, this is where our work can go further. Because again, it doesn't mean that we diminish our disciplines. On the contrary, we give it even more a better boost, because it seems that it's necessary to work like that. It's impossible. Let's say again, I talk about myself. I don't want to get other fields, to other colleagues. As a historian, it's impossible if I don't work with linguistics in these terms, because the language that people use is bad words or good words, depending on what they say. It's really important if you use a document. I'm not a linguist. However, shouldn't I ask for a colleague to help me? So it can take me, I don't know, a year to grasp. For someone who is a specialist, it can take a minute. And I've seen it many times happening, right? It's the same thing when we do to maths. So if I do an equation, obviously a mathematician will find it really easier than me, I guess, and I hope. So some conclusions is that there is an idea that it requires, have self-confidence and openness to others. Some people think that it's destabilizing other fields. On the contrary, as I mentioned many times, I believe that it gives more boost. I believe that 21st century, especially humanities, they need a boost in order to go further and create something better, something different. So in these terms, I would welcome you all to create a more productive approach, and also find your discipline, find the way to share the richness and the importance of your discipline. Because basically what I like and I expect from colleagues in academia is to share the richness of what they do. People that they have worked like all of us, all of their lives in a field, that means that we know something, we've been deeper. So especially since we are thirsty for knowledge, I'm really open to understanding other fields. And then I'm trying, basically I see it as a challenge to use my mind more, to find more connections. And I understand that what we do now, as a historian, I think like that is something that we can really offer to other generations, to the next generations. So as I've seen in many countries, and you have seen, there are countries that they don't really, for example, focus on humanities. They don't really pay attention to that, which is something I find it, I don't know, I cannot even mention that. I find it really unfair, because humanity is a very important aspect. And what I think is, and this is how I'll close, is that imagine the world, for example, without historians, without philologists, without our field. In 100 years from now, it can happen, it could happen, depending on how governments see education. But can you imagine a world without, I don't know, mathematics, let's say, not stay only in humanities? I don't think that it's the world and academia can stand even with one discipline missing. Thank you very much for the presentation.
All right, Evcharisto, Dr. Konstantinos. So I love what you said, actually, when you were stressing the importance of interdisciplinary research, because everything is connected. So in practical terms, especially now during the time of the Internet of Things, everything is connected, and we need this such kind of approaches in order to boost knowledge. So now I think we have like a really good time, actually, around 20 minutes or so, in order to receive questions from our attendees. So would you please make your questions brief, and it's relevant to the topics that Dr. Konstantinos talked about, so that we can take as many questions during the time allowed as possible. So I can see hands. Dr. Fatma Sheikh, would you like to start?
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm actually from the College of Computer Science and Information Technology. I've always been a strong supporter of interdisciplinary research, and the need for this has grown even stronger. It's emerged even stronger in this pandemic.
I'd like to just quickly share my experience over the last 8 months. I have 2 grants from the King Abdulaziz City of Science and Technology for the development of novel practical solutions that would assist the kingdom in the combat against COVID-19. So my team and I, we've been looking through many different areas, and we've done extensive research. And we've also seen how digital technologies were employed by different countries in this fight. And we've actually noticed that interdisciplinary approaches have had a greater probability of succeeding during real-time deployment than pure technological solutions. So basically, the approach that we have also adopted in our solutions is that we have taken into consideration the requirements for the different types of users who would actually use these solutions in real life. So it's not just about technology, but how the technology is applied and adopted by users. And this can only be done if we take the user's perspective when we are developing it. So again, interdisciplinary is very important, the whole thing. And so in my approach, I've taken into perspective the users, the public health professionals, and the medical professionals' perspective into consideration. And I hope that we can assist these different categories of users in their work. Now, we've actually, in the study that I've looked across, now one thing that's been the buzzword, which was the Apple Google thing that was deployed for digital contact tracing, for instance. Now, this was very technological. And to say that it succeeded is actually wrong. It was hardly adopted by any countries, perhaps just a few in Europe and some in the US. And the key reason was that this technology, it just shut out all the other fields. And what they said was that, well, it has to be technology only that can combat COVID and that can do the contact tracing side of things. And that didn't go down well with the users and with the public health professionals, because they took out the human perspective completely from the solution. And I also teach enterprise architecture to students at college. And one of the key things that enterprise architecture aims is that we must look at the different perspectives of the stakeholders, and they must have the ability to speak about them and to contribute towards the growth of the organization. If it's not done, then in the long run, such organizations that do not take into consideration the multidisciplinary, you could say the context, perish in the long term. So that's what has emerged. So even technology now, we have an increasingly, favorite approach in which we are looking at other fields. But I think it's very much in the nascent phase, and I think there needs to be more discussion around this whole idea of collaborating with each other. I really think so.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fatima. Dr. Yasser, would you like to take the next question? Is there anything you'd like to add to what Dr. Fatima said, Dr. Konstantinos? Yes, yeah, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you very much. It's really useful having someone from this field discussing, and thank you very much for sharing that. Again, technology is, without it, we can do almost nothing. Basically, we go back, to the previous century, not as a society. I mean, in our field, right? I don't discuss about general. So in my field, for example, as a historian, I decided to focus more on American history, while my first degree was on, I'm a philologist by craft, and I was also focusing on Russian studies, so Russian language and all these terms. So I focused more on history and then contemporary history. One of the reasons is that as a PhD candidate, I would like to have resources. So let's say in the United States perspective, because it's a newer nation, so they focus a lot on having archives almost everywhere, very good archives, and they have all the machines you may need. What I mean is, the machines, the tools, the software, all the applications you may need. Okay, not everywhere the same, but okay, the better university or archives you go, the better the better tools you find. But we have it. So without you, we couldn't really go further. So this is one of the uses that it's really important to me. Without that, I wouldn't even be a researcher, not even the researcher I am now. And also, I find it really helpful, as you say, how we approach COVID. Okay, again, I'll talk as a historian. So is it, how relevant is, I find it extremely relevant to go back and understand how this kind of viruses worked and where they came from in order to find some new vaccines or work with the previous vaccinations and understand how to change it. Yeah. Let's say, we have to do it interdisciplinarily, because if one of us try to do something, so obviously that will, I'm not sure if it will not give results. Let's say I'm optimistic and it will give results, but at the same time, wouldn't take a shorter time, or at least focus, offer more perspectives if there are more minds from different perspectives. Again, it's the idea of where you see, from which part you see the spectrum. So thank you very much for sharing that, because people from your field offer, you have a lot of power and you can offer amazing tools. Thank you, Dan.
But I do think, sorry, I'd just like to add, I do think that right now computing science is mainly looked at as a tool to facilitate other fields. But I think it's very important that we dig deeper and we see how can we actually utilize the intellectual property of the other field to harness computing science to develop these solutions in the other fields. I think that's really needed at the moment.
Exactly. What I find it fascinating in your field, and I also like to share it, is that I find myself, when I discuss with people from your field, sometimes completely ignorant. So, I feel like a kid. So when I go deeper and I ask questions, and thank God so far I find good colleagues to answer, I understand, as you say, that there is so much we can find. It's not only our laptop, it's something deeper than that. So we can really harness knowledge, and it's I cannot see myself, ourselves working outside of this field. So, we even in humanities, we have digital humanities aspect field where we discuss this part. I believe that, as you said, we have to harness knowledge one way or another from each other. In my case, learn from you a lot.
Amazing, amazing. Dr. Yasser, would you like to ask a question? Thank you very much.
Yes. Good morning, Kostas.
Hi, Yasser.
It's been a year since we met in London.
That's true.
My question is on methodology, okay? Now, I'll give you an example. I started a project 14 years ago on dual inheritance theory that has to deal with physical genes and cultural genes, okay? And I produced 2 papers and 2 booklets. But my question is that I see that I should pursue it more, and I should seek the assistance of a biologist. The question is, who should have the initiative? So we'll be 2 persons, inshallah. Okay, I'm searching for one, but who should have the initiative?
You mean to give the actual conclusions?
No, first of all, the initiative in setting the methodology, the initiative. I'm talking, okay, from the perspective of humanities, okay? And he will talk from the perspective of medicine. I'm dealing with cultural genes and the effect of cultural genes on biological genes and vice versa. Okay, from a linguistic point of view, from literary point of view, okay? But still, I need to have some kind of more organized knowledge on biological genes, okay? The frame and the layout and the steps are set by me, okay? But I ask who should, have the initiative in such kind of work and in different kinds of works like this.
So, we have to go deeper because it's a very interesting topic and it has a lot of aspects to work. But, out of the blue, I would say that whoever has the lead, if I might say that, it will give a different approach. So there you'll see whether you work, interdisciplinarily, multidisciplinarily, or whatever you choose. What I mean is that I'm not sure how you approach it and what you'd like to give. However, the 2 main, one of the first idea I have is if the biologist can actually offer something that can be readable for people in humanities. Let's say when we collaborate with people from sciences, that means for people with physics, biology, chemistry, it's whether they approach it in a way like the computing, as we mentioned before, in a way that the audience can grasp it. So if your audience will be from humanities, so that means that you basically need to find out whether these approaches can be addressed in your audience. So if, for example, me as a person of humanities, I start reading charts with numbers and words that I have no idea about because they are from science, so obviously it wouldn't really give you what you expect. I believe that depending on where we come from and what is the publication about and the work, I mean, generally, I think it should have a little bit clear perspective. Let's say you are the person from humanities, so you will give the guidance to the person from biology. What I mean is that you need to explain to these people that, you know what, I have this thing. What can you offer me? What I would do, right? I mean, out of the blue again, because it's a very complex conversation. What can you give me? And let's see how can I address it to my audience, because if you do it completely separately, so you write like a person from humanities and the other like a person from biology in your own way of writing, I mean, now talking about as a philologist, I mean, that means that you actually create two different, completely separate approaches. Even language will be different, even the audience will be different. So obviously, I don't think that the conclusions will be useful, because the people that will actually go through that means that they actually know both disciplines really well. So they have already grasped the vocabulary, the approaches, the mentality. So what I find fascinating, as I said, from people in sciences, in positive sciences, is that they can give me a way to work. Why? Because they see it clearly. Let's say a biologist, like a chemist, they know what they are expecting in some terms, or they know what they have, and because they have, I don't know, a substance, so they assume or they know how this substance works, or the pieces that we can break it. So what I can take from these people is their ability to focus on details, on tiny minor details that can actually give something different. We work in a different field, but these people, now with the pandemic, actually now they're actually playing with molecules or something like that. So they work in very, very tiny things. What I would do in your, if I were in your shoes, I will try to understand how they can approach it, and if they can approach it, and also if they can approach it in a way that it can be approachable to other people. One way or another, I think you have a lot of.
At this point, I reached conclusions, and I reached, and I have results. I need them to do scientific verifications of these results. Okay.
Okay.
The research yielded good results that African American people, for example, okay, after hundreds of years, are real Americans, okay, scientifically. We're not talking about, the historical facts, or they have rights here because the cultural gene affected the biological gene. I need, to take it, the way back, to give them the results, okay, to do some kind of scientific verifications on the body itself and on the mind.
I see. However, because you're talking about very specific, I guess that there are people that won't do that because they have a different opinion. So I think that you have people to really understand what you're doing, because gene theory is always, while it's very useful and very interesting, some people are against it, or they don't really understand it. So I think that you really should explain to them, and also try to understand whether they can give an explanation. I mean, you have all the data and you want them to understand it, right? to explain it. I mean, okay. Again, again, out of the blue, I'm discussing now. I would be really careful of what they would offer, because let's say, sometimes it affects our personal opinions, may affect our work. So if I were in your shoes, I would try to give these conclusions and see them working on in at least two different people, that they have these different perspectives. So basically, what I would offer is that I would have people with different perspectives. So this will give me another also, and also a useful tool that, okay, two biologists, I mean, there are two perspectives, this and the opposite, the contrast, that. Because I'm not sure, sorry, I'm not an expert in this field. I'm not sure if you can have a very, very clear results, I mean, unquestionable results in this field. You may have, I don't know, sorry for that. But I think that, having perspectives from these people as well, it's going to be useful, as at the same time as you find, that's why I said about gene theory, you can find, 1,000 people having a very different opinion about gene theory. Some of them think that it's a monster. Some of them think that it's there. So,
Thank you, Dr. Yasser. Thank you, Dr. Konstantinos. We can take, I think, one more question. Dr. Munira, would you like to take the question?
Yes, please. Thank you, Dr. Lubna. Good morning, Dr. Karatsas. I hope I pronounce it well.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
We enjoy listening to you this morning. While you were talking, I was thinking about that interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary might start by research. Then we can improve them and provide them as academic programs. That's what I see. I remember William Labov. He is the founder of sociolinguistics. He is the one who started using statistics in analyzing linguistic data. Mainly, he was industrial chemist. He wasn't linguist. He used his background, and he used the statistics, and he used the quantitative approach in his analyzing, and also he used the social factors in his analysis. So he referred to the variation in social, for example, economic class, gender, etc. Do you think this is multidisciplinary? It's by himself. And he started this field. Now we teach this field as programs. It started as research. Till now, dialectologists do not approve this approach. Till now, some of the dialectologists don't think that social factors might affect any change. They don't even look at change. They only document it. Anyway, do you think this is interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary in this case of sociolinguistics?
I see. Again, it depends on how you see it. So one of the things I'd say first of all about that is that depending on the decade we are, on the area we are, on the country we are, we have different approaches. Also, we have people that pioneered some fields, but at the same hand, I find it easy for us to question some of the first approaches in interdisciplinarity, for example, because we are safe. It's 100 years after that, so it's easy to discuss about that and judge them, and of course find their mistakes. However, I really like the idea to understand. I'm a historian. Where it came from. So you have a person like that working on something different and seeing another approach, and I find it extremely fascinating because at the same time, you can find people that probably have never worked in a field, but they are enthusiasts in something. So you find, for example, people in archaeology who were not archaeologists, but they were amazing archaeologists. What I mean, is that we can find our word, our position in these fields. I don't, I see in academia, there are many tensions. Like, it's a society, even if it's a global society. People, questioning just for the sake of questioning something, and discussing because they actually want to discuss it. I'm the latter. I like collaborating. I genuinely think that we should understand that, especially people like us, having PhDs. I don't know about you, but when I finished my PhD and I was doing a topic that nobody on earth was doing it at the moment, I felt great. But moment after I took my PhD, I understood that I almost know nothing. Basically, I mean that the knowledge is so vast that I know that I know nothing, as our ancient Greeks used to say.
Which is healthy. It's good.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is scholarship, right? I mean, if you want to become an academic, it means that obviously you understand that I can go there. Oh my God, there is another mountain, another.
Exactly.
I mean, this is your work, right?
Exactly.
Because you want to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to become, I don't know, something else, okay, you can grasp your field. But I think it's our field to learn and push ourselves to challenges. So in this field, I think it's a interdisciplinary approach. He tried to make it a multidisciplinary. However, it's about the period. Now we're talking about you're talking about programs of interdisciplinarity. What I see in creating programs, and I have been as a supervisor in some of these in universities, it seems that what we give, no, let me rephrase it. It seems that if we create something like that, we basically give more to the new generation of the people. So at first we show as academics, we are noble. I mean, we find our ways collaborating and learning. Which is, I think we should, as academics, give a good example to politicians, to reality, to people that we discuss, right? Even if we are experts in a field, doesn't mean that we don't need to hear something different. So we give a good idea of how a society could be. Let's say if I focus on society, so we discuss. Okay, we may have discuss 100% and 90% we have different opinions, which is healthy again. And again, we can give something from, like as I said to Yasser, that we can give something different to people. So in this, especially coming back to if we can create and should we create interdisciplinary field programs, the curriculums, there are two tools: interdisciplinary fields and the studies of interdisciplinarity. So there are two different ideas, but I find it all useful. So even we go there in publishing, we propose an interdisciplinary approach to something, which makes it fascinating, and also it can add a great value on what we do. And also the difficulty in interdisciplinarity, and this I'll finish because I talk a lot, I guess, is that we push ourselves sometimes to the limits. Sometimes we cannot really understand the other field. And also we find ourselves struggling in collaborating because there it goes on how collaborative someone is. It's pure relationship. However, I find it challenging because I believe that we should focus on scholarship, on providing on supporting scholarship and academia in every country, and giving something new. I strongly believe that that everybody in academia who has worked and is doing a legitimate work and offers something can really add something to the approaches.
Amazing.
You even imagine how much I can learn from you being from a different country, and I have a different perspective. And let's say now we have Yasser here, who's a friend of mine, and we have done the good conversations, and I learn every time I learn. And I'm not a philologist anymore, I'm a historian. So there are a lot that I don't know and I would like to learn. Why? Because basically I will make my own work even better. I don't know if it's good, but I will make it far better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, actually. CF Charistopoli, Dr. Konstantinos, for the amazing talk and for answering all the questions. We would love to take more questions, and I can see already questions in the chat. If you can please, but the time is over. If you could please just, if you'd like to take these questions, you can put your email in the chat box. Or you can answer them in the chat if you like. Thank you very much, everyone. And I'd like to move the mic now to my colleague, Dr. Haifa Al-Rumeh. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, thank you very much. It's been an honor.
Hello, good morning. Afkharisto, Dr. Karastas. Actually, many years ago, I remember many academics frowning upon research proposals if they couldn't clearly categorize them as belonging to one field. They would fault the work for being interdisciplinary rather than being focused or limited. That was then. What about today? How do departments in Saudi universities view interdisciplinary research? Are Saudi academics contributing research that we can label as interdisciplinary in nature? Here to discuss that matter is our second speaker, author and professor, Dr. Mohammed bin Nasr Al-Hukbani. Professor Al-Hukbani was awarded a PhD from Boston University and is an associate professor of psycholinguistics at King Fahd Security College. He is currently the chair of the Department of Languages and Translations and also holds the roles of supervisor, developer, and consultant of the Security Terminology and Translation Program at the Institute of Security Training. The impressive list of his publications and international presentations, along with his research interests, reflect his interdisciplinary approach as he is interested in various fields, such as, but not limited to, bilingualism, forensic linguistics, language acquisition, ESP, and security translation. I'm honored to present to you Professor Al-Hukbani, whose paper is entitled Interdisciplinary Research in Saudi Arabia. Are we lagging behind?
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmah. Hayyak Allah, Doctor.
Before I may start, I would like to correct my host. I used to work at King Fahd Security College, but no longer. Now I am a professor at Imam Muhammad bin Saud University, Islamic University. So the information is old. Hello?
Yes, I'm with you. Thank you. That was the CV that I was given.
I left the college, you know, I was associate professor a long time ago, but I left the college in 2017 as a professor, and I moved to Imam Muhammad bin Saud Islamic University. This is just a correction.
Okay.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. It's my pleasure to be participating in this scientific meeting with its nice title, Interdisciplinary Research, which is really a wide topic and requires more hours to discuss it. May I share the screen, please?
I think that you should have privileges to share the screen.
Yeah, so I'm just looking for
Haifa, maybe you can make him a co-host so that he can share his screen.
I can't make him a co-host.
Okay.
I think only the main host, Dr. Reich, can do that.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So, you know, I find difficulty in sharing my my file, so I don't know. But is there a way to share it? Can I send it to you? And I think this will take time.
Whatever works best for you, Doctor, if you'd like to.
Yeah, because I just would like to bring it from my desktop. Is there a way to bring it this way?
أعتذر عن المداخلة، بس في طريقة إن تخلونه هوست وقبل لا يطلع يرجع الهوست للشخص الأساسي.
Yes, we did that. He's the host.
Okay. My question is it possible to bring something from my desktop? Because I don't see, I just see like a different Google Drive and Box. But I cannot bring something from my desktop.
Did you click the share screen button?
Yes, I did.
And then you choose desktop. You can click on that option.
Yeah, but the desktop doesn't appear to me, and this is the problem. So anyway, I can't talk without sharing any kind of documents.
Doctor, would you like me to put my email in the chat box and you email me your presentation and I can share it from my computer?
Yeah. Do you want me to mail it right now to you?
If you'd like that, I can put my email right now.
No, I will send it to Arij.
Okay. Yes.
Is it possible?
Yes. Sure.
Yeah, okay. I think I should have made this yesterday, but was a little busy. So I did, and I sent it to you. I don't know if you can upload it to the screen. Did you get it, Arij?
Not yet.
Anyway, while you are getting the PowerPoint presentation, I would like just to outline my presentation, which is about the confusion of terminology. I'm not going to stay longer in this part because I think we have already discussed how difficult is the terminology. And then I talk about the interdisciplinary research in terms of this definition and application, and then why does it matter? Then I will introduce interdisciplinary research at Saudi universities, because we cannot talk about interdisciplinary research if we don't solve the barriers that prevent researchers from engaging in interdisciplinary research. Then I will talk about the that interdisciplinary research is the outcome of interdisciplinary teaching and learning. And this is very important if we would like to have interdisciplinary research in Saudi Arabia. Okay, here we go. Now, are you the one who moves the slides, or I can move it myself?
No, I'll be the one.
Okay, so you can go to the next one, please. Sorry for this interruption and this delay. As I said, this is my outlines or scope of presentation. Next slide, please. Yes. Now, if we look at this chart, we have different terms for disciplinary. We start with from the bottom to the top. We have the interdisciplinary, which is equivalent to disciplinary single disciplines, and that just conducting research with a single discipline. And actually, this is the mainstream in Saudi Arabia. We rarely find researchers who are willing to go beyond this boundary. There are different reasons for that. I think part of it is their background education and how difficult to cross the boundaries between disciplines. Then we have the cross-disciplinary. I think there are some efforts from some researchers in our universities to have this cross-disciplinary from one perspective of another. Then they have to, sometimes they cross their discipline and go to a discipline that is similar to their own. For example, as my colleague mentioned, sociolinguistics. Sociolinguistics is one discipline or sub-disciplines from linguistics, but they move from linguistics to sociolinguistics, and this is very acceptable. So the first two dimensions are the most common in Saudi Arabia. But when we go up to our main topic today, interdisciplinary research, we find it very difficult to carry out in Saudi Arabia because the idea that our researchers have about this type of research. Despite the fact this is the most powerful type of research and that we need it nowadays, because now we don't live in single rooms that differentiate us from other disciplines. If we don't combine integrated theoretical frameworks from different disciplines in order to solve problems that have connections with other disciplines, then the picture that we are gaining from the research itself is not going anywhere. So it will be always missing some components unless we try to pass our disciplines and bring different theoretical frameworks from other disciplines. The multidisciplinary, in fact, is what many researchers come from different disciplines, but still they don't have that enough interaction between each other. They just work on their own principles. They try to solve their problems depending on the principles of their disciplines. Also, we have something wider, which is a transdisciplinary, which creates a unity between between different intellectual frameworks beyond the disciplinary perspectives. For example, we bring the whole society. We bring the whole society to get used or to use the knowledge that can be obtained from this transdisciplinary approaches. So in Saudi Arabia now, we just are focusing on the interdisciplinary due to different reasons, unfortunately. Can you move to the second, please? Now, interdisciplinary research is very much attracting because it is a kind of a process through which we can answer a question, solve a problem by a single discipline, but it is not by itself, just by drawing on disciplines with the goal of integrating their insights to construct more comprehensive understanding. So if we look at solving a crime, then we have different disciplines at play. For example, we have forensics, linguistics, and then the outcome of that is forensic linguistics. And we rely on linguistic evidence to solve the crime. Also, under linguistics itself, there are different subdisciplines. We have phonology, we have phonetics, we have voice print. So there are different subdisciplines or disciplines that contribute to our understanding, and they come under the new term called forensic linguistics. So can we move to the third one, please? Yes. So now someone may ask, why does it matter in Saudi Arabia that we should have interdisciplinary research? It does, because disciplinary research is a single window approach to answering a research question or a problem. Research collaboration leads to creativity. And unfortunately, when we look at our departments nowadays, we lack the creativity in our research. It is like a repetition. We just seek publication without creativity. We don't consult other disciplines to solve a problem and present our research findings to be convincing. Just we seek publication, no matter what was the result. Then we have innovation. This is one of the importance of interdisciplinary research. If we don't have innovative research findings, then there is no use to conduct research. Then we have the productivity. Now, universities and our schools are part of a larger society. If we don't have a productivity in our research findings, then what is the use of it? So through interdisciplinary research, we can achieve a productivity. Then the most important aspect of interdisciplinary research is a problem solving. Now, if we conduct research from a single window approach, then we are just presenting a single solution. A single solution may not solve the whole problem. For example, if we just do something from a linguistic perspective, then it will be just a linguistic problem, and we solve it for the linguistic purposes. But if we look at it from a different angle, from a different perspective, and bring different disciplines, if it is necessary, then we will have a holistic approach in solving the problem. So interdisciplinary research at Saudi universities, we have this reality. Late awareness of the necessity of interdisciplinary research with no serious action were taken to transfer this awareness into practice. Now, if you go to any university in Saudi Arabia, we have everyone is talking about interdisciplinary research and how much it is important to our education. But unfortunately, we don't see any kind of action. We still have, or we still follow the same procedures that we did in the past. How? Let's look at these barriers to understand the whole situation. Now, we have lack of a training in interdisciplinary research, reluctance to experience. Our researchers are reluctant to carry out interdisciplinary research because it is very tough, time-consuming, requires knowledge, and also collaboration between different researchers. And unfortunately, our education does not encourage collaboration between different researchers. You find, for example, you find one college, and within the college there are different departments. For example, Department of Languages, for example. You find different disciplines like linguistics, applied linguistics, literature, translation, and there is no cooperation between the researchers. And this is very important. Also, some of them prefer certain methodology. They have, for example, qualitative versus quantitative. So this problem with the training prevent our researchers from carrying any kind of interdisciplinary research because our institutions are not ready to implement interdisciplinary research. I don't believe in individual attempts to interdisciplinary research because individual attempts will always be individual and will be unnoticed because it will not be a common practice in our institutions. We need it to be the norm in our institution, not just certain or some individuals from there and there. They carry and publish research, interdisciplinary research, and nobody heard about them. The second one, some members in our scientific councils of certain Saudi universities, not all of them, and the promotion evaluators, unfortunately, lack commitment to interdisciplinary research, leading them to question and reject interdisciplinary research papers as irrelevant to the applicant's field of study. Hence, researchers may avoid carrying out interdisciplinary research lest they are deprived of promotion. And to tell you the truth, I came across several issues like this. And sometimes they discuss it for a long time. They question whether this research belongs to the applicant's field of study or not. There are some of the traditional members in scientific councils of certain Saudi universities, they still have this narrow-minded concerning interdisciplinary research, and they just reject it. Next slide, please. Yes. Now, to the best of my knowledge also, there is no interdisciplinary journals in Saudi Arabia. Now, if we look at it from a linguistic perspective, then we don't find this interdisciplinary approach to publication in our journals. There is no single journal carrying the name of interdisciplinary research. This may discourage researchers from conducting and publishing their interdisciplinary research, since it is not motivated by either our institutions or our local journal publishers, which all of them are published by our institutions. And even we have some journal titles like Journal of Social Sciences and the Humanities, you still find the published papers in these journals are representing certain topic in a single discipline, unfortunately. The other barrier, despite the fact some local universities developed awareness, and we all know that. Now they are talking about the dirasat al-Bainiyya, but still, these institutions have not yet developed interdisciplinary programs and adequate autonomy. For example, if you look at College of Languages or College of Computer Science, for example, computer science, for example, is related in one way or another, to language studies, for example, through different areas of linguistics. But still, you don't find anyone from either the College of Languages or College of Computer Science working together or developing research perspectives from computers, sciences, and linguistic sciences. And the same applies to all our departments. Even within the same college, for example, College of Languages, you will find these programs offered in these colleges, like linguistics, applied linguistics, or English literature. The people don't have the ability to have their disciplines integrated and produce interdisciplinary research, because there is no interaction or collaboration between the people in these departments. And we face it every time. Some faculty members are unaware of the interdisciplinary nature of various disciplines, even within their own colleges. Just let me share with you this story. One day, there was a master's student presenting her master's topic, and it was passed to me after it was evaluated. When I read the evaluation, I was astonished. Her paper was about the development of language in preschool students. When I read the evaluation report, I didn't believe it came from one of our faculty members or who studied language at all. One of the reasons he gave to reject this proposal is to ask the students to go and do it in the psychology department. And he forgets that we have something called psycholinguistics and cognitive linguistics. So I challenged that report, and finally it was accepted. So we have this unawareness among our researchers and faculty members. And if we attribute this, we attribute it to lack of training in interdisciplinary research. Also, researchers who are interested in conducting interdisciplinary research may face difficulty in getting funding. You know, sometimes we hear that one project was denied for funding because one of the evaluation or evaluators of the project says it is beyond the applicant's disciplines. This is an awareness is very problematic, and it needs to be solved so that we promote interdisciplinary research in Saudi Arabia. That is why I am saying it is not an individual enterprise. It is something that our institutions, our higher education should foster and adapt so that our faculty members in our schools and institutions understand this is not something for pleasure. It is something that is necessary to bring different disciplines together and solve our problems. Otherwise, we will be just carrying out research in single disciplines again and again, and the picture will not be clear. Next slide, please. So I always have this statement in my mind. Interdisciplinary research is the outcome of interdisciplinary teaching and learning. Can we have well-established IDR in Saudi Arabia without promoting interdisciplinary teaching and learning? Definitely the answer is no. Without interdisciplinary researchers, we will not be able to develop IDR in our institutions. Unfortunately, we don't have them. Also, there is a need to teach our students IDR skills so they can build up their IDR learning habits. Now, the mainstream in our education, I'm talking about the university level, so I'm not talking about secondary schools and these things. So when we talk about higher education, our students are specialized in certain, they study different subjects in their program, but they are not capable of relating what they are studying so that they can be good interdisciplinary researchers in the future. So they cannot develop their learning skills in interdisciplinary research. One reason for that, because our faculty members, they live in isolation. They think they are loyal to what they have studied. And we represent different schools. For example, people who are coming from the United States and people who are coming from Britain and Australia and Canada and different places. And we know these places have different strategies of teaching and learning. Next sister, please. So this is the major slide that I would like to capitalize on in my presentation. I heard some of you talking about integration between different disciplines. In fact, it was part of my education. I graduated from King Faisal University in Al-Hassan, 1994. Then I joined the master's program in applied linguistics at King Saud University in Riyadh, 1995. Then I joined the master programs in applied linguistics and language teaching at Indiana State University in 1999. Then, 1998, I believe so. Then I joined the doctoral programs at Boston University in 2000, almost 2000, okay? Then I had the opportunity to be exposed to different approaches and different professors and different programs, in fact. At King Faisal University, I got my Bachelor in Education, English Language and Literature, from King Saud Applied Linguistics, from Indiana State Applied Linguistics and Language Teaching, and from Boston, it was in Applied Linguistics, but Applied Linguistics was introduced by different schools. Schools of Psychology, School of Sociology, Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, School of Education, School of Languages, Foreign Languages. So you can imagine when someone goes to all these different schools, then he will have what I call interdisciplinary teaching and learning. So we should not expect from someone who was just taught disciplinary courses, focusing on disciplinary courses without any kind of cross-disciplinary or even interdisciplinary courses. To publish research, interdisciplinary research, he will not be able, because the one who doesn't have the knowledge, he cannot spread it out. So I believe in applied linguistics, by definition, is an interdisciplinary subject. It lives on others, it feeds them and others. Sometimes I hear the statement in my college, and I don't get embarrassed to spread it out. Sometimes they try to distinguish, to put lines between linguistics and applied linguistics, and that is a shame. I don't know why. I mean, yes, for teaching purposes could be, but they are interrelated. From applied linguistics perspective, we get the theoretical ideas from theoretical linguistics and try to apply them in everyday situation, mainly in teaching. So when people set these lines, specific lines between the two disciplines, or we call them two interrelated disciplines, then we are creating barriers and obstacles in our teaching and learning too. So in my, talking about my experience, when I started working at King Faisal Security College, I was faced by this problem. English was not taught in the right way to our police officers because they don't have any program there. Since I was teaching there, I had to do something. Then I developed ESP programs, teaching English for security purposes, and I published 2 textbooks in this field. And also I published different research, several research in this field. Some of them are considered like pioneering research, and were cited by many researchers across the globe. Because at that time, police studies in terms of their language learning was almost absent. There was none of that kind. Therefore, I worked so hard to combine 2 different disciplines, linguistics and police. Since I was mainly, or I'm still concerned with discourse analysis, and I obtained my education from Boston University in terms of discourse analysis, then I started to implement what I have learned about the principle of discourse markers in analyzing police text that helped me to publish interdisciplinary research in this field. Also to write 2 textbooks. It took me a long time to do that, but without the right training and the right teaching that I obtained, it wouldn't be possible for anyone else. So it was very challenging to start my life writing books, publishing papers in 2 different or more. Actually, when we talk about police sciences, we are not talking about one disciplines. We are talking about different disciplines, including criminology, criminal investigation, criminal evidence, traffic, narcotics. All these things I had to face them and analyze them to bring topics for teaching our police officers. From this direction, I went to another area of language studies, which was forensic linguistics. I translated the first book in Arabic in 2008. It was published in 2009. Also, without being able to use discourse analysis, the principle of discourse analysis and how to implement them in text, then it would be also difficult for me to translate that book. Also, then I worked a little bit on forensic analysis of certain criminal text, especially with terrorism. And that, in fact, led me to produce something called terror linguistics, and I published an article about it, which was very challenging. And you cannot imagine how difficult something unless you just try to do it. Then you will find many problems, and then you have the, for example, you have the opportunity to solve them and then to enjoy what you did. Also, something related to my doctoral dissertation, and also about language and the human brain. In fact, in the coming few months or weeks, there will be a book published from Imam Muhammad bin Saud Islamic University called Language in Our Brain. In my doctoral dissertation, I wrote something about bilingualism in bilingual education. So I tried to investigate whether monolingual are similar or different from bilingual children in terms of their language system in their brain. Do they have 2 linguistic systems or just 1 linguistic system? And that was a very hot topic at that time. It was in 2001 and 2 and 3, and it was published twice in the USA and Europe. It was about meta-linguistic awareness in bilingual children. That was very challenging for me because my background when I came to Boston University was almost language teaching. So I had to work in bilingual education. I had to combine both bilingual education with linguistics and educational problems. Language, no, I was very happy when I heard you, Ari, saying that one of your students is doing a study about linguistics and some subtype of brain problems. You know, in the last few years, I had to be so close to patients who are in vegetative state. Vegetative state mean they are in coma, but they are aware, not aware in the terms that we understand. It is they can see you, they can look around, they can do so many things that you expect them to either understanding and talking. Patients in vegetative state, in fact, when I asked a neurolinguist, I asked so many of them. In fact, it was in your city, Dammam and Khobar, and different places there when I was there. Unfortunately, neurolinguists do not or cannot answer the question. Do they understand what we are saying? Can they respond to us? They say no. Some of them are questioning. Very few of them saying it could be. So we need linguistic studies. We need to combine linguistics with neurology. So we have neurolinguistics. My colleagues, which I know personally, working at King Faisal Hospital, a specialized hospital, they have this center where they deal with children with language disorders. But if you look at them, they are not special, none of them is specializing in linguistics or even applied linguistics. So there is a missing link between our institutions and I mean our institution language, colleges and departments with these places, with these hospitals, specialized hospitals, and with their centers. So we need kind of collaboration between our institutions and there, so we can understand how those patients, how our children who are autistic, who Down syndrome, are coping up with their languages, what kind of difficulties they have. So brain, when we go inside the brain, we can understand so many things about language development and language acquisition. Unfortunately, when I translated this book by Friedrichi called Language in Our Brain, I found out that we are really lagging behind. We are really not doing anything. Friedrichi from the Saint Blanc's Institute, they did interdisciplinary research combining brain, neurology, neurolinguistics, cognitive science, linguistics. But in fact, in our situations, we are indeed lagging behind because we don't know each other. Our hospitals are working according to their own principles without no relation with linguists who can in fact produce something valuable to their research. If they combine their studies. Sometimes my students who are interested in forensics, they say, how can we carry out research in forensic linguistics? Unfortunately, they are not going to do it right because they don't have the knowledge in police studies and forensic studies. It is not sufficient to be linguist to carry out research in forensic linguistics. You have to have knowledge in both areas and more of these areas. In linguistics, you have to be a good phonologist, you have to be a good linguist, good stylist, because you are going to deal with plagiarism, which in fact requires knowledge of different styles and so on. So in fact, we are lagging behind. The picture in our country is not that brilliant. We need to change it, and we cannot change it unless we change the way we are teaching our students, the way we are we are building our colleges and departments. I'm not saying that we should abolish these colleges and departments, but I think if we cannot do it within our departments, then the only idea acceptable here is to create college of interdisciplinary research. If we have in each university a college called interdisciplinary research, then we will be able to advance a little bit, to bring these areas which are interrelated, which can be used in interdisciplinary research to function. Then we have good research publications in interdisciplinary research. That requires time, requires a change, and the change cannot come from individual. Individuals are capable, some of the individuals are capable of conducting interdisciplinary research, but it will be in the dark. We need something that it is the mainstream. It is something like a culture that we adapt and then we teach it to our students. Unfortunately, we are not too close to that. We are far away from this culture. We need to work on it. I hope to see in the future that our institutions are changing to interdisciplinary research. Next step, please. Next step. I think I don't have the conclusion and implication can be seen from my talk. We need to develop interdisciplinary programs in our educational institutions, and we should not leave it to individuals. Yes, the individual can, for example, offer new solutions, engage in interdisciplinary research, but if that is not the mainstream of our institutions, then we are just we will be lagging behind and no solutions, no valuable solutions in this connection. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Al-Hikbani. I agree with you. The issue isn't going to be solved by individuals. And it's past time that we raise awareness on an institutional and national level. I'll take a few questions. I think we have a question from Amani Hamdan. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Professor Al-Hikbani, for this very thought-provoking presentation. And I cannot agree more with everything that you had said. My background is in education, originally a physicist. I did my higher education and higher studies in Canada. And the idea of interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary research is quite profound there. I saw colleagues from every discipline, from medicine, from nursing, coming over to the Faculty of Education and building up research teams with faculty members in education, and likewise from colleges of English and translation, etc. So I cannot agree more with everything that you had said. And yes, we are lagging behind. I finished my PhD back in 2006, and here I am, 14 years or more, trying to build up that culture on my own with some colleagues who believe in interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. I don't want to be pessimistic, but to your knowledge, even within colleges, even within departments, we're still seeing these boundaries, and it's been looked at as territorial. This is my territory and this is your territory, and we cannot cross boundaries. I really hope and pray that the day will come when we can cross these boundaries with a lot of pride and respect to each other's discipline and backgrounds. Because we are a top-down cultures, I do believe that with individual efforts, we have to have some decision-making towards interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research in order to see a big and huge shift. Because at this point, I don't think we would want to be, we would be satisfied with some individual efforts here and there. We need to have a collaborative effort to push the boundaries and to create a culture of of interdisciplinary research between different disciplines, like you had mentioned, linguistics and sociolinguistics. And I add a huge list of possibilities. The ideas are out there. I believe you emphasized the multidisciplinary nature of science in general, and I support that and I agree to that. And look at the world now, jumping from STEAM to STREAM to STEM, back and forth, and education is being presented as a whole discipline and not infringed in small subspecialties here and there. So to reiterate again what you had mentioned, I believe that we all as individuals believe in interdisciplinary research. We have to push this forward and to probably propose a national plan to implement that, not only on the scientific council level, but also on the junior researchers and our students who are starting the research career, to apply that as much as possible, because our brains do not think in fringes and in bits and pieces like we see around there. I spent so much time reading about how we could probably implement that, and I was so excited today when one of my colleagues here shared the link with me, and I asked my colleague Dr. Arij al-Bawardi, who I thank so much for trying to kind of rock the boat with such ideas, is to keep moving on in that direction, and we should all support each other to achieve what we all aspire to achieve. Thank you once again, and this presentation had really provoked many thoughts and actually beliefs that I have on research in general. Thank you so much, Dr. Hagbani, and my colleagues at the English department. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amani. I don't know if Dr. Hagbani would like to comment.
I agree with Dr. She was Aisha. Aisha
Amani. No, Amani.
Yes, Amani. Sorry, I was just a little busy. Anyway, I think what she said is right, and we still have this problem. And when I was invited to this meeting, the title was very attracting, because in my last 15 years or 16 years when I came back from the USA, I never was invited to this kind of meetings. I mean, interdisciplinary is just sometimes is mentioned with some shyness. Even the translation of interdisciplinary, there is really some people who question it, and unfortunately in higher education. So I hope this meeting will promote more thinking about implementing interdisciplinary studies or research in our institutions. And Bajama'at al-Imam Abdalrahman Faisal, it is one of our good universities, and this meeting is an evidence for that. Thank you very much.
I think we can take one more question from Dr. Aisha Rashid.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you so much, Dr. Al-Hagbani, for your insightful presentation. And I wanted to ask you about the future of humanities. As you may know, we hear about, quote unquote, the death of the humanities. There is more focus on STEM majors nowadays: science, technology, engineering, and medicine. Enrollments in humanities are declining globally. As a result, and for economic reasons, there is a tendency worldwide to underfund and even marginalize the humanities. And you mentioned creating a college for interdisciplinary research, but do you think implementing interdisciplinary studies and majors could be one way of saving the humanities? I mean, given what you mentioned about the challenges of interdisciplinary research, how do you think academic departments could redefine their programs accordingly?
You know, okay, good question, in fact. Yeah. Anyway, you know, I heard from time to time that there is a strategy to abolish our departments, unfortunately. Now, in the horizon, there are some suggestions to get rid of these departments and colleges and to bring them together. I mean, to break down the boundaries between these departments and colleges. Despite the fact I'm against this, because abolishing departments and colleges is not going to be the solution. It took us a long time to build these colleges and departments, and it is useless to just think this way, to abolish the departments and colleges just to survive. I do agree with you that the humanities is at risk nowadays. It is at stake, in fact. So we need to do something, because the way we are working now is the traditional way. You know, what I mean by the traditional way, that we are having our jobs just to survive, to wait until the end of the month and get our salary, which in fact doesn't differentiate us from other occupations. So as in the academia, as academics, I think we have to think about different ways. And when I suggested a College of Interdisciplinary Research, because we need to give life to interdisciplinary research, because in this way we are doing it right now. It is not going to be alive in the future. It is almost dead. So I think we have to compete with other disciplines. It is very nice thing that through disasters, we bring something new. We create novelty. And unfortunately, humanities is lagging behind compared to other disciplines, medicine, technology. But I think humanities, especially our domain, linguistics, can play a great role in this combination of research. But the initiative is not there. I mean, we need someone who takes the initiative. I mean, to give suggestions. If you look at our colleges, the administration who are running these colleges are professors, assistant or associate or full professors. They are busy with their administrative work. And so we have so many problems. If we don't solve them, then we'll be lagging behind. And I think we will finish. I hope not soon, but I think we have to compete. And competition is the brand name for survival. We need to survive by competition. If we don't compete with others, then we are lagging behind. And then I'm afraid that we'll be finished by polishing, I mean, by just getting rid of these departments. The problem with our departments nowadays, they attempt to create more sub-departments. And I don't think this is the right solution. Sub-departments, that means sub-ideas. Sub-ideas do not survive. We need interdisciplinary research. We need interaction, integration, synthesis of findings. And synthesis of finding cannot be achieved without bringing these departments or sub-departments together. And in fact, in my institution, sometimes they think about different plans to have different programs, despite the fact they are interrelated. So they are interrelated, they are integrated. So why do you want to have different departments? So I agree with you that the humanity sciences are at stake, and then we have to do something. We have to keep up with what is going on with COVID-19. And I was very, very happy when I evaluated some papers for promotion for Saudis. Imagine for Saudis who did research combining linguistics and language with COVID-19. And I gave them big marks for that, because this is very good. I mean, in less than eight months or 9 months, they were able to publish papers related to COVID-19 and relate that to language studies, to language teaching, to our students. And that was fascinating. And this is through this way, we can develop our programs. We can develop our integrity with other colleges, including medicine. I agree with you, and I hope I answer your questions, but I think you have a good point in that. We have to do something, and that is why I'm focusing on our institutions to take action. If they don't take the action, who is supposed to take it? And it is not individual, it should be collective actions.
That's true. That's true. Thank you so much, Professor Al-Hagbani.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. Our third and final panel, we have three speakers, Dr. Peter Edwards, his father, Dr. Henry Edwards, and Yini's son. They will be speaking about psychiatry and language learning. Just a brief bio about Dr. Peters. He's a professor at KFUPM in the English Language Department. He currently teaches courses in academic discourse to STEM undergrads in preparation for careers using English for specific purposes. His most recent publications include The Pinwheel, a classroom structure for simulating authentic intergroup contact, and also narratives from excursion to Grapes Yard School in Korogcho Slum, Nairobi, reflections and perspectives on education, community spirit, and resilience. His father, Dr. Henry, us today. He served in the US Army as a lieutenant colonel in the Army Medical Corps. He completed his psychoanalytical training in 1972, and he has been in private practice doing individual and group therapy, corrections, and forensic psychiatry, both privately and for the US government. He was an assistant professor for psychiatry at Howard University in Washington, DC from 1969 to 1976. Today, he continues his 55-year career in private practice in the state of New York. And finally, we have Yini Sin. He completed his MA at Kim Young University College of Medicine in Korea in 2014. He is currently a PhD candidate at Yonsei University College of Medicine in Korea and working as a psychiatrist in Jisheon Neuropsychiatric Hospital. Welcome to our three speakers. Okay, the floor is yours, Dr. Peter.
Thank you very much. Salam alaikum, everyone. We are very, very, very pleased to be here today. We have enjoyed the first two speakers very much. And in the interest of time, we're running a little bit late. We are not going to go over some of the things that our first two speakers already spoke about, but we will tell all of you some of the stories that we had and how we actually came together. I'm hoping that my PowerPoint slides are visible, and very, very quickly, I'd like Dr. Henry Edwards, please, could you say hello quite loudly, please?
Hello.
He's in New York right now, and so we have many strange connections, but he is here with us and will definitely be answering some questions in the Q&A. And Dr. Yini Shin, actually, Dr. Yini is a woman. She is from South Korea. Could you please say hello, please, Dr. Shin?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here today.
So thank you. And again, in the interest of time, we'll try to make this a little bit shorter, but what we will do is tell you how we came together and some of the insights from our different fields that have been very positive for all of us. We hope that our technology is working well. My co-presenters, my father, and my father has, of course, been a psychiatrist all of my life. And I grew up, he used to read Freud to me as a bedtime story to make me go to sleep. And I was always very fascinated with his work, his field. And there was a time when I thought that I might actually go down the path of psychiatry, but I did not. I went in other interests. But I've always felt a fascination about psychiatry, about the mind. And Dr. Yenny Shin, Jenny as I call her, was actually my student way back in the 1990s. And she was a star student of mine and became an assistant of mine. And then after she graduated in English literature, she actually did follow the path of my father and became a psychiatrist. And she has been practicing in South Korea for the past several years. So I think we're going to have a couple of videos here. We'll try to keep moving quickly, but our agenda is actually quite simple. We're going to try to encourage the participants here to see that there's actually a lot of fun in the functions of interdisciplinary collaboration. We really enjoy seeing the similarities and the differences in our different fields. And so we hope to encourage you to go outside of your comfort zone and maybe even outside of your university to find people and talk with them about their disciplines and maybe see where things intersect. The reflection, the idea that reflection uncovers opportunities is something that we'll talk a little bit about. I've already said a little bit about my path intersecting with my own past, my father, my students. And we'll talk a little bit about listening and how that lowers resistance. And we'll have a few stories from Henry's years of experience. And we'll actually start off very soon here with Yinny speaking about some of her different perspectives and that have come from her study of literature. So we're doing the listening, the perspective, and the looking back. The silly picture of me in the center there, my father actually took that picture of me when I was, I think, 2 years old, 3 years old. And so I made that into just the idea of reflection, because I think that reflection is really very important. We look back on our own lives and then see where different intersections have begun. So we're actually going to move quickly. I'm going to start, let's see, with Jenny. She's going to tell us in this video, introduce some of her past and the intersection that she has seen with language and neuropsychiatry and aerobics. Here we go. Hopefully this will work smoothly. It might take a moment.
Hello, I'm most honored to have an opportunity to offer a couple remarks about language and psychiatry. And thank you so much for letting me be here today. I had been Professor Peter Edwards' student and teaching assistant in the English department back in the late 1990s, and now I'm working as a psychiatrist in Korea. My life itself has been multidisciplinary, and I'm still working on the integration and harmony between the left and right brains and the upper and lower brains. I had been a very right-brained person, thinking more holistically, creatively, and enjoying rhythms. Since studying medicine, however, I have changed into a more left-brain dominant person that is more linear, logical, and language-oriented, and I'm trying to integrate it eventually between left and right. I'm also trying to integrate my upstairs and downstairs brains. Upstairs brain is more critical, controlled, and empathic, while downstairs brain is more primitive and responsible for basic functioning, such as breathing, strong emotions, and innate reactions to danger. As we grow up, we use our frontal lobe and brain cortex, regulating and controlling our mood and behavior, going back and forth between left and right.
It just stopped. Oh, sorry.
Hello, I'm most honored to have an opportunity in psychiatric hospitals with symptoms of depression and anxiety has soared. They're complaining of sinking deeper into Corona Blue, which is a combined word of coronavirus and blue meaning depression. All stress factors are intensified more and more. Humans communicate with the environment, which inversely affects our emotions and thoughts. Long-time experience of emotions, thoughts, and behaviors affect the functioning of the brain and digestive system. I'll talk about this again in a moment. We also live in a high-tech era of social media and video games. The moderate use of social media provides us beneficial and useful stimuli to build knowledge, to establish and to maintain healthy interpersonal relationships. Excessive use of social media, however, can lead to poor functions of daily life and adversely affect mental health. Effects of video games on mental health have much been studied in many fields. Excessive video game playing may stunt development of the frontal lobes and affect emotion, memory, and impulse control. The brain might be impaired and can change into a state called the popcorn brain. Quote, the constant stimulation from electronics makes our brain accustomed to popping, fast-paced stream of information that we find on the internet. We are becoming increasingly less adept at handling the slower pace of real life, end of quote. There is a 4-character idiom called 과유불급 in Korea. That's what Confucius said, and in English, it can be translated literally, too much is as bad as too little. Too early and too excessive exposure to video games adversely affects physical growth and psychological development. But specially designed video games can increase impulse control, and that's why the latest game addiction treatment programs are in the form of video games. It is helpful to use the brain properly to stabilize the overactive brain by stresses from pandemics or excessive video games. You know, depression is called a systemic disease. Stress leads to cortisol, that is the stress hormone's hyperphysiological levels, which alters the effectiveness to regulate both the inflammatory and immune responses. Simply speaking, stress causes inflammation in neurons and many parts of the human body, leading to a depressive or anxious state, and accordingly reducing digestive functions and decreasing learning and memory. Yes, the vicious cycle is starting to work. But we human beings have resilience. Resilience means, quote, the ability to withstand adversity and bounce back from difficult life events, end of quote. We are distressed, downcast, and depressed, yet we can stand up again and jump up into a brighter future with that bouncing power. We all are on the same side, and our opponent is commonly the coronavirus. We will defeat the coronavirus and depression, and it will be possible with language learning as a way to energize the brain. Language or language learning broadens perspectives, connects the world, and transforms the brain. Being a woman psychiatrist has several benefits. I have a kind of mother figure kind of role. Certain patients appoint and prefer female doctors to tell their stories better, frankly, freely, easily, and comfortably. As an English-speaking psychiatrist, it also has remarkable merits. English opens to a whole new me as well as a real new world. The patient pool is limitless. I can talk to, listen to, and give help to foreign peoples from abroad because English becomes a perfect vehicle for communicating with people from all over the world. Plus, consultants, scholarship, and friendship are broadened globally by using English. English gives people a big, big world full of lessons, friends, knowledge, and happiness. It is a new and colossal world spreading in front of me. It functions as a medium, tool, vehicle, bridge, beneficial weapon, new life, improved capacity, and way to encounter a real new world. Then the stress hormone is weakened, and the happy hormones are released from the whole body, strengthening our immune system, brightening our mood, and activating our behavior. Then the virtuous cycle begins. The pursuit of novelty, in my case English, helps to expand our capabilities by the neurobic workout. Neurobics refer to neuroaerobics, that is brain exercises using the 5 senses, smell, touch, sound, taste, and sight to build a better brain. Reading literature and learning non-native languages help a lot in neurobic perspectives. Our brains hold the universe. I'll show you 2 pictures. What do you think this purple picture is? What about the green one? Do they look the same or similar? The purple one indicates the cosmic web, which connects individual galaxies. Scientists report that there are about 250 billion stars in the galaxy and 100 billion galaxies in the observable universe. The green picture on the right is a neural network in the brain that each of us has one by one. There are about 100 billion neurons in the brain, and one neuron is connected to 1 to 1,000 neurons, which is more than the connections of stars in the universe and faster than Haramain Express train. Humans age, but the brain is neuroplastic, allowing the brain to change with new experiences, behaviors, and language learning to maintain its youth. The brain's neural network is revived and new branches of neural connections are formed. A unique experience activates the brain's neural collection, and gene activation produces protein. Existing neural connections are regenerated and reinforced, and new neurons are stimulated to grow. Languages and interdisciplinary approaches make this possible. Even if our outer appearance ages, our brain and inner self become renewed and younger. Sally Sattel, another woman psychiatrist in Cornell University Hospital, has mentioned that the brain is the 3-pound universe between our ears. The universe in your brain is now trying to connect and expand its potentials at this moment. Listening to me, an Asian female English-speaking psychiatrist with an odd-looking and unfamiliar pronunciation and intonation, your brains work actively, and all of you are getting younger than before you heard my story. Every unknown thing challenges and expands our cognitive and neural functions and strengthens our broad-mindedness and capacity. You know, Emily Dickinson, an American lyric poet, said in the poem The Brain, it reads, "The brain is wider than the sky, and the brain is deeper than the sea," back in the 19th century, and I can tell that is still true. I believe your language, your teaching English becomes a door to a whole new world, another universe, both to your students and yourself. ESL teachers are not merely language instructors, but also communicators and good role models for students, just as Dr. Peter Edwards did to me. He never gave me an answer on the spot. He taught me how to fish, not to catch fish in my mouth. I got to realize the power of thinking, which is much bigger and more important than the answer in front of my eyes, and helps me better understand my patients. I hope your students will not only learn language through you, but also experience new and beneficial experiences full of passion. And I hope that language learning will be a remedy to reduce stress and restore to health, a door to a new world, and an opportunity to live a new life every day. Thank you so much.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Yuni. We'll have some time for questions, comments that you have. Let's move along quickly so that Henry can give a couple of stories about some of the patients that he has had. So let's see. Well, we don't quite have time for this one. Let's listen here. This is one of his patients.
Walter, a 42-year-old fireman, came to see me willingly because he was tortured by symptoms of PTSD following his rather gruesome experience in the 9/11 attack. He was on the scene at the time and for months afterwards. And he was feeling lots of anxiety. He was feeling he was depressed, panic attacks, had insomnia, a lot of somatic symptoms, a lot of recurrent thoughts and nightmares. And because of the pain, he came seeking help. Initially, I responded to his symptomatology and treated him with drugs to try to calm things down for him because he certainly needed it. But as time went on, it became clear as I listened that there was more that he was not talking about. And I could sense that he wanted to tell his story the more I listened. And I therefore listened and engaged with him and showed an interest in his telling me about his actual experiences. Once I did that, he was able to open up and tell so much about what had gone on with him, what a traumatic experience this was. I listened.
Okay, I think we lost Dr. Peter Edwards. Let's just wait till he connects back.
I don't see him in the list of participants, so he might have
got disconnected. Well, we do have Dr. Yeni Shen with us, so whoever has any questions for her while we wait, you can write your question in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and. Yeah.
Something's wrong with Professor Peter Edwards' network, so.
Okay, yeah, seems so. Any questions for Dr. Yeni Shen? We loved your little video.
Oh, thank you.
How the brain, functions and works with, especially with, the current pandemic and the anxieties and.
These days, many people from, complaining of depressive mood, which is called Corona Blue, and anxious people coming to the clinic very much.
Wow. Okay, we have a question from Naji Akhbar. Okay.
Yeah, so my question is for Dr. Yeni. And well, it's not a question, it's just an observation. I think we're living in a world where our brains are extremely stimulated. I mean, we're living in a world where there is stimulation every now and then, and we're overstimulated. And I think that has.
Okay, we can't really hear you, Naji.
Just give me a second. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's clear.
Yes.
Am I clear enough now? Am I audible?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so my question to Dr. Yeni is that what do we do about the world that we're living in? I mean, we are so overstimulated by media, by, stresses at the job work, there are deadlines over deadlines, and then you have family obligations, and there's so much to catch up with. I mean, what do we do about this world? And how do we reduce this this intensity of overstimulation that we encounter daily basis?
People ask me like, can I say? I explain like this. There are many things that we have to do right now, or I have many schedules, but I have to be have some kind of objective kind of view about what I am doing and what I'm going to do. And apart from all the stimuli, all the different and stimulus. We need to stand by that, not hurling, like, you know, not hurling with that kind of situation. Just we have to move out of that situation and looking at that situation and my plans and my schedules and every stimuli outside of some kind of, you know, objective view, to have the objective view. And, you know, I believe you may have heard of the mindfulness and thinking about, you know, step out of that situation and think your what can I say? Think what you are doing and see yourself. That helps a lot in this very busy and, you know, very complex world like these days.
Thank you, Yini. I think I am back with the technical problems. If everyone can see the computer, let me have one more of Henry's videos, and then we'll have some more Q&A time and still finish hopefully a little close to on time. So here's another short clip from Henry. It should just take a few seconds, please.
Learning decreases resistance. I had this kid, a 16-year-old kid, sophomore in high school, brought in by...
I'm so sorry. We'll have that again.
Learning decreases resistance. I had this sophomore in high school, brought in by his parents because he was starting to be more withdrawn, isolating himself, irritable, wouldn't engage with the family. His grades fell off, formerly a straight A student. They didn't know what was going on with him, and they brought him to see me, the psychiatrist. He was very resistant to the idea. And when I first saw him, he was very sullen, he had very little to say and wouldn't talk. I began to listen to him, asking him in his own words to tell me what was going on. The fact that I was listening and the fact that I reassured him that our conversations were confidential, he began to relax and to tell his story. And what he told me was that he was afraid in coming in. His family was very righteous and religious and put a lot of emphasis on education. He said that in trying to fit in school, he tried some marijuana a couple of times, but has since stopped. He was afraid that his parents would find out by talking to me, and it would be very difficult for him. So he was afraid to talk. But when I listened, developed a sense of trust, he opened up and was able to tell me all the things that were troubling him, how he felt like an outlier, he didn't fit in with the social scene, he didn't date, he didn't have close friends, and he was worried about himself. The resistance had a lot to do with fear of his family finding out, fear that there was something deeply wrong with him, and he was afraid that he might be going down the tubes. But after opening up, I was able to see him for the next 2 or 3 years through high school and off to college. By listening and hearing what concerned him, he became less resistant, opened up, and therapy could continue.
All right. Well, thank you. I think because of the technical problems and for time's sake, we're going to move into see if we have some more. Both Yini and Henry are here with us, and we'll see if we can answer some questions. I'd like to say as we wrap up the things that we've talked about, one of the things that I've always liked and admired about my father is as he goes on in years and continues to love his work and continues to work, when we learn how to listen, when we can listen to each other, age differences don't matter so much. And I really like the story that he just told of the adolescent boy. The difference in age between this 16, 18-year-old boy and my father, it doesn't really matter if we listen. If we listen very carefully, we can understand each other. And in terms of interdisciplinary research, that's also where things begin. It's part of language, it's part of psychiatry, and it's definitely a part of that interdisciplinary collaboration that we are really aspiring to. So in our short amount of time today, what we really wanted to bring to the stage are our experiences of finding a lot of joy and insight in crossing between what seems to be very different fields. One thing that I can say with my feelings towards psychiatry, although I am not a psychiatrist, I am not a trained therapist, one of the things that both Yenny and my father have stressed to me is that as teachers, as instructors, what we do is we have a long period of consistent contact with our students. And what we can do is become more sensitive to the changes that happen to our students. We can notice when something is bothering them a little bit, when their writing becomes different, when their absences or whatever. While we are not the trained professionals, we might be those people who can have that first contact. In the same way that a paramedic, an emergency person, might be the first person to help someone in an accident. They are not a doctor, they are not a surgeon, but they can do something. In the same way that if we see somebody in a restaurant that is choking, we can, if we have been trained just a little bit, we can help them out and maybe save some lives. And the stressful lives that our students have, we might be that first contact. We might be. So in the collaboration that I am doing with Yenny and my father, is we are thinking and exploring ways that teachers can take the sensitivity that we already have about our students, their motivations and their comings and goings. We can also maybe look out for their well-being. And when the stresses and anxieties from COVID and just school in general become too much, we might be the first people to say, hey, maybe some more help needs to be done. So all we really wanted to do today, we're very happy to be here and to do some work together, is to say that we have found a lot of insights. We have found many things in collaborating, and we encourage as many of you as possible to not be afraid to go outside of your comfort zone and go outside of your discipline and start talking to other people and seeing how you might be able to do some projects together. As our colleagues spoke about before us, there's a wide range of wonderful opportunities, and it is also crucial that all of us really push towards finding ways to do more interdisciplinary work. And it really is fun finding the different functionalities in our different fields. So Henry and Yenny are still here with me, and in the interest of time, we will wrap up what we formally had to say, and we'll be very happy to answer any questions that come up.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peters, for the lovely videos of your father and his experience with his patients. And we would love to have the links to those YouTube videos if possible. I know you had a few that you weren't able to share, so.
Yes, we can make those available, absolutely.
And I loved how you summarized this whole talk into just one simple word, to listen. And it's not something that's, sometimes easy, but, just to listen and to accept and learn. Yes.
Yes, we hope so. We hope so. Where if there are any questions, please.
Any questions, comments, feedback? Okay, we have one from Mandura.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Henry and Dr. Edward and Yanni for this very informational session. So my question is quite related to psychiatry and psychology. I'm a literature student, undergraduate, and as you're aware that many themes in literature is related to psychology aspects, to name few like alienation and disillusionment and many to name. So if we say, usually when you study it, we study it from criticism point of view limited to the literary word itself. But would you think there is a possibility we can make it as interdisciplinary study if we apply, for example, a psychological analysis for a fictional character, a real psychological analysis, not just a literary theme, or the opposite? Can we apply, say, for example, a literary word, a literary work to, let's say, in something called like bibliotherapy or in therapy of real psychological issues, for example, alienation and such? I would like to hear your thoughts from a professional point of view. Thank you.
Yes, I will pass that on to my father. Sorry, Yenny, but I'll pass that on to my father because actually part of my love of literature and film came from the idea of analyzing characters. So perhaps my father could say something about literature and or film and analysis of characters.
I would be glad to do so. I'm really sorry because of the technology here. I couldn't quite understand the question. Peter, could you restate the question in the thumbnail?
Well, yes, just your feelings about using psychoanalytic means to analyze fictional characters.
I think that is a very good vehicle for increasing not only our enjoyment of literature, movies, and so forth, but for increasing our own sensitivity and our understanding of other people. You know, we can read an awful lot about theoretical ideas about the mind and behavior and all of that. But if you can allow yourself to get into the character in your movie or your book and feel with that character, walk with that character, empathize with that character, you begin to understand. Not only understand others, but understand yourself. That's such a big part, I think, of the work, working with people as an analyst, as a therapist, is that it's a continuing and ongoing growth process for you yourself. When I'm talking to my patients, I'm talking to myself. When I'm listening to my patients, I'm listening to myself. When I talk about being able to listen, it's not just I want to hear the words that someone else is saying, but I want to be able to understand them in such a way that I can be quiet and hear what they're saying. And that's what was meant when we talked about listening as a way of decreasing resistance, because people who initially are protective of themselves don't want to open up. If they can sense that you really hear them, then they'll be more apt to put down their guard and their resistance and talk to you. And I think we can learn an awful lot of that in a vicarious but intimate way that we look at a movie, read a book.
Thank you. I will ask Yenny if she has something to add, but I will add one quick thing as well. One of the things that drew me to literature, to novels especially, more so than films or other storytelling, is that we actually do get to go inside the mind of other people. We get to go inside the mind of the protagonist, of the character, and know what's going on. This is something that we don't get to do in real life. We don't actually know what other people are thinking, and we don't really get that in film as much. But in novels, we get to go into the inner workings of the character's mind. I find that fascinating. Did you want to add anything, Yenny?
Very late at the time, so I don't have much, but I'm using psychoanalytic approaches to literature, I think that's a kind of a way to widen and to make it deeper to understand human mind. You know, characters in the novels are kind of, you know, it's very plausible stories, so we can understand people out of the literature in literary form. And I'd like to add in the interdisciplinary kind of approaches, there's a word like literary medicine or medical, you know, humanities kind of interdisciplinary studies. In my case, in my clinic, I have some kind of literary medicine kind of time with my patients. We read some literary works and we are writing about the story, and they just, you know, they write down their feeling about the characters and the stories. It's not particularly the psychoanalytic analysis, but they get something out of the literature comparing with their own experiences and their life. From literature, they have some kind of healing power and some kind of insight. So I think literature can be used analytically or in other forms to treatment in medical field and in any other fields as well. So that's why I came to medical school, and I love literature as well. Okay.
Are there any last questions before we wrap things up? We know the time schedule has been extended already.
Okay, there's one question from Darfa. She asks, why do you think mental illnesses are overlooked, neglected in universities, even with the severe effect it has on academic performance?
Wow, yeah. Father, would you like to answer that?
I think the question is why are mental health issues minimized? I didn't quite understand.
Yes, why are they neglected, especially in university where it is such a crucial issue? Why do you think that they are neglected, these mental health issues?
You know, I think that the world is changing in terms of the way that mental health is looked at and viewed. But I still think that there's such a thing as stigmatization and fear of mental illness in society in the general way that I think probably extends into the university as well. One of the stories I was going to tell spoke to what happened in the university when I was trying to bring certain mental health issues to the fore in teaching a class of social work graduate students. There was a lot of resistance to hearing that. Why is there resistance? The students hearing it, why is there resistance to the faculty putting it in the curriculum? I think it has to do with an ongoing shying away from mental health issues. It's getting better, but somehow there still seems to be some fear. Let's not go there. And one of the ways you don't go there is to say, well, that's not important. That's not pertinent. Let's not talk about that. And all around us, we're living with not only the effects, but the direct day-to-day issues of people with mental health. And not only is it missing in the textbooks and in the curriculum, but you know, you don't see it in the students. You can't have a class that doesn't have multiple mental health problems. And that's one of the things that, you know, we're trying to emphasize in terms of talking to schools, talking to teachers. There are mental health issues there. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it formally in our teaching. And let's not be afraid to approach and listen to our students. As Peter was saying, not trying to be therapists or whatever, but there's issues here that people with anxiety, depression, and sometimes a little worse. Let's not be so hesitant about it. So I'm agreeing that it is restricted, but I'm thinking hopefully that restriction will be diminished.
Yes. Yeah, the stigma that is attached is really a shame. As we're wrapping up, I'll just say that one thing that I find as an instructor and also as an instructor living overseas in different cultures that I was not born into, again and again and again and again, students will come to my office. They will come to talk about an assignment or something, and then they begin to talk about things in their lives. And at some point, I hear this every semester, somebody will say to me, "Oh, professor, I've never told anybody this, but," and then they talk. And so it is a great opportunity for us to help young people struggling with things if we can just listen to them. We are not professionals, but the listening is a real good step. And the more interdisciplinary work we do, the more we will be able to find out about this. But if our time is about over, or is there another last question?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Peters. Yes, I think Naji has his hand raised, so I don't know if he wants to add something.
Please. Yes, Naji.
Yes, go ahead, Naji.
Perhaps not.
He unmuted his mic, but I don't know. Okay. Anything else from the attendees? So thank you, Dr. Peter and Henry Edwards and Dr. Yini Shin for your lovely talk about the interdisciplinary approach. And we have a survey, so if all the attendees could please take the polling. And I hope all of you have a great day. Take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Yeni in Korea and my dad in New York. Thank you all very much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a privilege.
Great having you.
Thank you. Thank you. Father, we're having many.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you.
It's like what, 4 a.m. now in the US? About?
Yeah, what time is it for you, Dad?
Yeah, it's about 4 in the morning, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
But it was worth staying up to participate.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing that. What time is it, Yeni?
It's almost 7 in the afternoon. It's amazing.
Wow.
I'm here with you, all of you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Let's see. Oh, there we go, all finished. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We hope to see you soon.
Thank you. We'll fill out the survey. Thank you.
The survey should appear on the screen, so it should come out automatically. There's no link for it.
I will mute my microphone now. Thank you all very much.
I was just answering Dareen Al-Malki and Naji Akbar because they were asking where the survey was.
Oh, great. So we have 100% voted. So I think we can end the meeting. Thank you everyone for coming. And thank you,
Dr. Areej.
Yes, it was really a success. Thank you everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Alaikum salam.